Jarvis, drop my needle.
Hello, this is the hardcore legend Mick Foley, and if you are interested in listening to idiots, you came to the right place. Have a nice day.
Woo! That's an attention getter.
He's a very strange young man.
He's an idiot. What we're dealing with here is a complete lack of respect for the law.
Oh my God, he's an idiot.
You know, of course, that you're out of your jurisdiction.
Personally, I think you're an idiot.
But that's the evidence in the car.
But I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
Always like to keep my audience riveted.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, friends and fiends, and welcome to Free Range Idiocy, the podcast about everything, but mostly just the stuff we like. You would think that a couple of interweb bums such as ourselves would have nothing better to do than spend all day, every day, plying the information superhighway for subject matter and drooling over the latest movie releases. Not so. In fact, we actually have jobs and families and pets and houseplants that are all vying for our attention. I know, we're just as terrified by being entrusted with this much responsibility as you are, which is my long-winded way of telling you, our dear listeners, that we haven't gotten around to seeing Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, our intended subject matter for this episode. So instead, we'll be going with the last resort of the desperate in this episode 134, Catch Up Part 2. I am your Uncle Todd, and with me, as always, is the man who is the originator of the float over DDT. He has been my partner in EDC for over 2 decades and has filed multiple lawsuits against Dwayne Johnson, only to have them thrown out on the technicality that he has no legal standing whatsoever. I give you the man they call Tim.
Ketchup, where's the mustard? Ah! Greetings and salutations, sir. How are you?
You're wrong.
That's how I am.
You're wrong.
Humble you. Oh, my goodness.
You are worse than Hulk Hogan.
There we go.
There, Shiki has spoken. Shiki has spoken from the beyond.
Oh, my
All
gosh.
right.
Well, how are you
sir?
doing? Oh, well, I'm doing fine. How about you?
I'm doing well. Running
Yeah.
on fumes, but getting there.
It looks, so yet again, we are attempting to record with video. You're not going to get to see it, but we at least get to see each other. And let me just tell you, the man they call Tim, broadcasting from the basement from the end of the Blair Witch Project. It's like all shadowy. There's like one dim 20-watt bulb over in the corner. I'm surprised he isn't facing the corner, rocking back and forth. It's either that or it's like mankind in a boiler room.
Yeah.
You know,
It's going to start sitting here rocking back and forth. Ooh.
that's
yes.
Paul Bearer, sir. That's isn't that?
Oh, yeah, that's true. It's gimmick infringement. My apologies.
Yeah.
But
Bill Moody is going to be after you. Oh wait, no, he isn't.
Watch out for
The
Bill
estate
Moody.
of Bill Moody is going to be after you.
You bet.
What would the ghost of Paul Bearer sound like? Pretty much like Paul Bearer.
Probably like Paul Bearer. He's been practicing most of his life, so
Very
if not
true.
all of it.
And visiting buffets. So,
Yes.
anyways,
Yes.
we have nothing in the way of an actual cohesive subject matter for this episode. So once again, we are going the PTI route, and we're going to smash a whole bunch of subjects together here. However, I think it'll be pretty entertaining. Of course,
I
I'm
think so,
biased
too.
as hell, but hey, what else are you going to do? So let's lead this sucker off right here and throw this to the man they call Tim, and a little something we call the Week in Geek.
Feels so funky.
What do we got?
Thank you.
This episode, sir.
Thank you, sir.
I'm just going to keep interrupting you as much as possible now because I can
That's
see you
fine.
just about to speak.
That's fine.
So I'm just going to jump in every time.
Okay.
Is that
You
good?
do
Is that annoying?
Yeah, that's fine.
Is it okay? Good.
Now I'm jumping in super fast to beat you.
God,
All
that's
right.
exhausting. Jeez.
I tells you.
Better
Well,
yet,
our
I
Week
could
in
be a,
Geek-
what?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Let me talk to you.
That'd just be a never-ending feedback loop. What? Yeah.
Yeah. You
Oh,
know,
my
at
God.
some point they're going to bust that out at a WrestleMania. They're going to get Austin and LA Knight
Oh.
in a ring to do that because people see the potential. So,
Oh, please, dear God! And by the way, I just want to catch everyone up here. We're running on probably combined like 7.5 hours of sleep, so this is really going to be interesting. Take it away,
oh
sir.
my gosh. Yeah, so our Week in Geek is largely Thrawn-centric. And so our first article, a little fist bump from Uncle Todd. Boy, this camera thing is interesting. From ScreenRant.com, from back in the May timeframe, I saw the jazz hands, where was Grand Admiral Thrawn during the original trilogy? A little article here on the two essential, backgrounds on Grand Admiral Thrawn. He is, as we will find out in Ahsoka, when he makes his live action debut, a character who basically missed the entire Galactic Civil War. He was off.
He slept through it.
Well, they call it the unknown regions. I sometimes call it the nether regions, but nonetheless, he was roaming.
Damn!
Oh, thank you, Ron. He was roaming the galaxy, far, far away from the action that was happening with Luke, Leia, and Han Solo. But this article basically kind of gives you both backgrounds. One from Rebels, where they talk about. I mean, the one commonality is he is in the unknown regions during this time.
Yes, which I love how you describe that as far, far away, because we're already in a galaxy far, far away.
It's so, that much further.
It's like the Thrawn, the Ahsoka, like when they introduce Thrawn, it should be like in a galaxy further, further away. From the galaxy far, far away.
Yes, further, further away.
Or if you're from Maine, just up the road a piece from.
$1.25, pa. Oh my God!
Can't get there from here, no sir.
No,
you can't get to the
no,
unknown
sir.
regions. You
No,
can't get
sir.
to the nether regions, but it'll cost you.
Oh my gosh! But that is the one commonality. He is definitely MIA. He is missing during the events of the original trilogy, the Galactic Civil War. But basically, with Rebels and the Heir to the Empire book, there are two slightly different explanations for why, and so this article kind of plays on those. So those familiar with Rebels will know, no spoiler here since the series has been out for quite some time, but Grand Admiral Thrawn essentially taken to the unknown regions via Ezra Bridger, via the Purgles, the space
Darby
whales.
Whales here, Captain.
That's right. We have for the first time ever Star Wars Moby Dick. So and maybe Thrawn is the Captain Ahab. I don't know. But nonetheless, he makes his journey to the unknown regions via this sequence of events that basically ties up the Rebel show, and of course will make his return from that region in Ahsoka. The second one is I don't want to say slightly more interesting, but I always like the mysterious.
How is it more interesting than space whales? Come on, like that.
Well, the lack of space whales makes it interesting.
Oh, the PETA people are going to be after your ass. Let me tell you. So, what happened to the space whales? Were they harmed?
Oh, good Lord!
I want to see Thrawn make his grand entrance, not like onto the bridge of Starship. I want to see him riding a space whale. That's what I want to see.
That's what we're going to find out. He will have found a way. I love how you're doing the Buck and Bronco.
As if Thrawn would ever do that.
If that doesn't kill the complete vibe of Grand Admiral Thrawn, watching him ride in.
Like what? Did Thrawn's redneck cousin show up? Like, what is this? Billy Joe Thrawn?
Gosh. Oh gosh. Yeah, he works down the road from Ed Fett.
Oh, good old Ed Fett. Oh, there's a black sheep in every family, and there he is. The only thing that'd be better is if it was Ed Fett like bail bonds. Then at least he's like, well, he's trying to be in the family business. He's just really bad at this. Which would give us the Midnight Run crossover we've all been asking for all these years.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh.
I hope it's a real nice coffee shop, Jack.
What we're referring to is I sent Uncle Todd a meme that basically says something to the effect the two older brothers became, galactic bounty hunters, but the younger one just had to find his own way, and it's Ed Fett Accountants, and it looks like this derelict building. I mean, it's the image and the text just do it all. It is phenomenal. Oh,
well,
my
you know,
gosh.
he's doing the taxes out in the out in the unknown regions, out in the outer rim.
Oh,
So how much Wampa food are you trying to deduct here? I'm sorry, that's too much. That's too much. I don't care how many bantha sticks you have. Like that, no, that's too much. You're gonna get audited. You're going to get audited. That's all.
Enforcing a galactic tax code. We can't even enforce a tax code in this country, let alone the galaxy.
Are you kidding? A galactic tax code is real easy. Hi, we're the Empire. Gimme.
Oh, good
okay,
Lord.
here you go.
Jeez. All right. Well, after that little jaunt,
what are we talking about again?
we were talking about Thrawn. And,
Billy Joe Thrawn. That's right.
That's right. But so Thrawn in the books is comes back from the unknown regions. We're not really told how he got there to begin with, but we're simply told he was there during the events of the original trilogy, but also that he was basically a secret Grand Admiral, mainly because of the fact that he, unlike other Grand Admirals within the Empire, was an alien. And we kind of got into this a little bit when we read the Thrawn, the 2016 Thrawn trilogy, when we talked with Jimmy Dice about how those books kind of delved a little bit into some of the just nastier sides of the culture of the galaxy. I don't want to say the galaxy of Coruscant, where there was a bit of a kind of a human bias towards power and toward roles, and especially in the Empire. And so aliens were quite subjugated to the lesser roles. And so
yeah, Grand Admiral Thrawn was he's a Grand Admiral from Canada. You would have never met him. You wouldn't have never met him. Yeah, we only see him in the summer.
Okay, I see. I got it. I hear you.
It actually works very well. Just sub in outer, the unknown regions.
That's true.
For Canada.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
There you go. So
it was explained to us in Heir to the Empire that he was off on kind of a secret, military, sort of mission. What actually I kind of find interesting, and I need to go back to Heir to the Empire to check this, but I'm also wondering when we get to Ahsoka, two things. One, will they work in the Salamiri, which is that creature that repels the Force? And Thrawn actually employs that creature to subjugate Sabath, the crazed Jedi, whatever master he is. He's a nut job.
He's a clone
but
of
I'm also
a Jedi
wondering,
master.
So the second thing is, I'm wondering, will they explain that he found them in the unknown regions? Because I don't think they ever really get into in Heir to the Empire, like where he found them.
God, I hope not.
Maybe they do. I got to go back and look, but
I really hope they don't, because to me, it works in a book. Like this, to me, is one of those things that works in a book because you have so much more space and time to delve into stuff like that, and you get into the minutia. I don't need you to, like, all of a sudden we have this Force, repelling critter that now you've got to try and explain, because even though you and I understand it, and there's going to be a certain amount of people who get it, know that it's just going to come off real shallow and flat. I mean, I guess it could work, but to me, the chances are low. That's just my
yeah. It's fair. I think it's an interesting wrinkle, especially with Ahsoka being, a Force user, that it would be an interesting wrinkle that he brings in, to introduce that. But as with other things right now, Star Wars and Filoni we trust, and so we will see how that all plays out.
Indeed.
Our next article, also Thrawn based, which I kind of pulled because I thought Uncle Todd would appreciate this, because it brings back his favorite character from the original Thrawn trilogy. This article goes into the 10 best candidates for the evil clone Jedi in the Mandalorian movie. So this movie that is going to be created, which I believe is going to be the Dave Filoni directed one, where it is called Heir to the Empire. There again from ScreenRant.com. This article exploring if they bring in an evil clone Jedi, who would be that Jedi, and they go through 10 of them. One of them is the original, from the books, Jorah Sabath, who is a master who was actually a Jedi, was killed, but had been cloned, and that's the key here. Is it is a cloned version of that Jedi. Some people thought Ray Stevenson's Baylan Skoll, which will be in Ahsoka, might be him, Jorah Sabath. I don't know. We'll have to find out when we see him. But I get to number 9, and this is Uncle Todd's favorite, because Uncle Todd doesn't like just Luke. He likes Luke with like 2 or 3 U's, just like,
you know who I'm rooting for? Ahsoka. Ahsoka. That's who I'm rooting
actually
for.
number 1. Evil Ahsoka.
Oh yeah.
That's actually number
course.
1 is a clone of Ahsoka.
That one I would actually go for, because quite honestly, like, what's better than 1 Rosario Dawson in this? 2 Rosario Dawsons. Yes.
Amen.
I'm good with that.
2 Rosario Dawsons and a Cara Thrace.
Oh, you get oh, come on.
Bo Katan.
No, would that just be Boo? Boo Katan.
Boo.
Yeah.
Number 8
They're not saying
was...
boo, folks. They're saying, oh, wait, no, they are saying boo. Never mind.
Yeah. So we have Jorah Sabath, the evil clone of Luke with multiple U's in his name. Mace Windu is another one, would be an evil clone. I'm not quite sure how that would materialize. Other than maybe they recover. As far as we know right now, he died in Revenge of the Sith, and so maybe they recovered his body and decided to clone it one day.
Well, I mean, either
Anakin's...
that or, I mean, think about the Jedi. Do you think the Jedi would have some sort of like DNA database of all the Jedis?
Possibly. They're a high-tech group. Why not?
Could be. And, they're also, a little scary.
It could happen. Number 7 was Anakin Skywalker, because that's what we need, is just one more round with Anakin and Darth, because let's beat that horse until it's dead.
Yeah, better yet, where's Palpatine show up on this list? At number 2, I'm guessing.
Good question. Is
because we need more Palpy. That's what we need.
Palpatine is not on this list. He is not on this list.
Do it.
Sorry, sir. Number 6, Plo Koon, who is a Jedi from the Clone Wars series, and was Filoni's favorite Jedi, according to this article. So that would be again, the whole idea is this is an evil clone. So a lot of these characters are, originally good, and it would be more of the shock factor of seeing them, cast in kind of an evil light. Number 5 was Kanan Jarrus. He is the...
Ooh, I got it with Plo Koon, whatever his last name is there. Plo Koon. They could, instead of using like the double vowel, they could do a double consonant. You can get like a real Sylvester and Tweety sort of Plo Koon. I've just completely spit up my entire microphone here.
Just when you think you have the answers, Uncle Todd changes the questions. There you go.
And not for the better.
Oh my gosh! But yeah, Kanan.
I like the Kanan Jarrus one. That one's interesting.
That'd be kind of interesting if he came back as an evil clone. Number 4 was Ezra Bridger. So we would, the idea here being they're looking for Ezra, and so we would get live action Ezra, but might also get a evil clone version of him. So we will have to see.
Ooh, better yet, as we get cartoon Ezra Bridger, so you kind of get like a Who Framed Roger Rabbit sort of live action cartoon mix.
Oh, there you go. Look at Uncle Todd with those ideas. He is a never-ending factory of creativity.
I mean, they're all crap, but yeah, they're there.
Well, we'll take them. Number 3 was Obi-Wan Kenobi. So would we see an evil clone of Obi-Wan?
Do it.
There you go. Number 2 is an interesting one, because his name is Galen Merrick, a.k.a. Starkiller. Starkiller was Darth Vader's secret apprentice in the Force Unleashed video games, but later betrayed his master and helped form the Rebel Alliance. So it'd be interesting. And then number 1, Uncle Todd called this at the very top of this whole thing, a evil cloned Ahsoka Tano. Ahsoka with multiple S's and K's. Ahsoka.
It just looks and sounds like Wookiee speak.
Oh my god! You when we did the book review with Jimmy Dice of the Heir to the Empire trilogy, you said how that third book just felt like, he was just trying to find ways to. I honestly think like the Luke thing must have been like the last detail, and he was just tired. He wanted to get the thing done and published, and he's like, I can't come up with a great name. I'm gonna throw another U in there. That's what I'm gonna do.
Well, he had clone Luke the whole time. He's like, I just can't call it clone Luke. I can't come up with a better name. I need to have this thing shipped to the editor by the morning, and it's 3 a.m. I'll add.
He should have done what the High Evolutionary did in Guardians of the Galaxy. Call him Counter Luke. Luke and Counter Luke.
Sure, why not?
Why not? It's better than Luke, but not nearly as funny.
Actually, I would argue I'll take Luke over Counter Luke.
Well, there we go. We found one step worse than the Luke evil.
That's
clone,
almost as lame as like, well, he must be evil because he has a mustache in this episode. Whenever they have like a twin, Knight Rider, Star Trek, any of the it's the evil one because he's got a goatee or he has a mustache.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Oh, one thing about Galen Merrick, aka Starkiller #2 here, which ties back to BSG, I believe, is that let's see,
Galen
longtime
Tyrrell?
Star Wars voice actor Sam Witwer, right? Sam Witwer, didn't he play? What was the soldier in season 1 and 2 when they crashed on Kobol and he started to lose his marble? He was doing
Crashdown.
That's Sam Witwer.
Oh
and
my
he did
gosh.
the voice of Galen Merrick. So we have yet again BSG and its reach across the galaxy, across the culture. There you go, ladies and gentlemen.
Anyway, we can get an encounter with them and Bo somewhere along the line. You look familiar.
So there you go. So you got Rosario Dawson, you got Bo-Katan, you got Sam Witwer. I mean, it's like you're just getting the band back together. You know what I mean? Just let's get the Admiral in there.
Wait a minute. Where was Rosario Dawson in BSG?
Oh, she wasn't. I'm just saying she's the star. But then you get you get a couple BSGers in there, and then you bring the Admiral in as some wise rebel.
You had me on the verge of like leaving this episode right now and beginning a rewatch, like a thorough rewatch right now. Like I somehow missed the Rosario Dawson cameo. How did this happen?
I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say.
Just don't.
So that is any thoughts on those candidates?
I mean, it kind of feels like I really think it'll be Ahsoka. That's what I think. So yeah. I think the other. I like. If I had to pick another one, I actually think Kanan Jarrus would be my favorite because that character did die. So again, sorry, spoilers, but the show's been out for like 8 years now. That character did die at the end of Rebels, so it would be a way of bringing that character back without violating canon per se. So that would be interesting, and I would love to see a Kanan Jarrus, live action portrayal. But yeah, I mean, I'll just kind of see how it goes. I can't say I'm all that passionate about this one. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I guess you could say I'm kind of lukewarm on the whole thing.
Oh, there he goes. Hey. Uncle Todd.
You are worse than Hulk Hogan.
Oh, there it is. There it is. Beautiful. All right, our last, somewhat Thrawn. Now we're kind of swinging into Ahsoka. This is about the villains of Ahsoka being Star Wars' 6th attempt, because 6 times is a charm, at breaking its Sith obsession. This article, again from ScreenRant.com, was focused on the new characters we are going to see: Baylan Skoll, played by the late Ray Stevenson, unfortunately, and Ivana Sakno's Shin Hati. You've seen them in the trailer. They have orange lightsabers, which is a different look. But the article basically getting into the fact that unlike prior Star Wars properties, these two characters may not necessarily be Sith. They just may be, evil in nature and Force users, but just a different flavor than we've seen in the past. And so, so I thought this was kind of interesting. It's unclear. I've often wondered when I first saw the trailer if Shin Hati was going to end up being Jade. What's her name from the book? Jade.
Mara Jade.
And Balin Skoll, as I talked about in the prior article, some think that he is going to end up being Jorah Sabath. There's also a thought that potentially these two not being Sith are because they are essentially from like another time. A lot of folks point to the trailer and the background of one of the scenes with Balin Skoll where he appears to be in this mystical plane that is called the world between worlds. And so the idea is, are they actually crossing over from a totally different like timeline or just dimension of Star Wars? I'm not as up to speed on the world between worlds. I think I saw like a Clone Wars that talked about it, but I don't know much more beyond that. So are they just from a completely different time entirely, and therefore not Sith but just a different sort of villain? What are your thoughts, sir?
I mean, I think it's interesting. I hope to God we're not heading towards like a Star Wars multiverse sort of thing. I really, 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 really do.
I really want to retcon 7, 8, and 9, so that's one to do it.
Oh no! Anyways, it sounds interesting. In Star Wars, it's actually not. And this is totally me. I mean, I can see if other people have an argument against it, and you're fully entitled to. It's kind of the one place where I'm like, okay, yeah, all the villains fall into this category, and I'm okay with that. I don't know why that is. It just seems to me that the Sith can kind of stand in for just evil, and like this, then of course there's going to be all kinds of different, types of evil within the Sith and all that, and just different personalities and all that. So I've never really thought like, oh my gosh, we need to get away from that, because I mean, we kind of have in a way, because you have the Galactic Empire, which even though it's run by a Sith master, is a bureaucratic kind of fascist sort of badness instead of more of an evil space magic badness, I guess you could say. So it's interesting to me, and I mean, I'll give it a try. Why not? See what they do with it.
The other attempts at kind of moving away from the Sith, characters like the Inquisitors, Supreme Leader Snoke, Kylo Ren, the Knights of Ren, Savage Opress, are all considered characters that were, attempts at, basically bringing in dark side Force users that were not necessarily Sith. They weren't following the rule of two or anything like that. So,
I have always considered like all of that is kind of like a subset of the Sith, since they're all kind of following. I guess I never really thought about that. All right.
Yeah, so it's interesting, and I did see in the article they did mention with the world between worlds, where it talks about them being from a different time. It's a mystical plane that makes time travel possible. As such, Balin and Shin could be from a completely different time entirely. There was also a rumor that Shin could be connected to the Night Sisters, the witches of Dathomir, whose magic was often associated with the dark side of the Force. So I think the idea here is that it's just kind of moving things in a direction that might be a bit off the norm of what we're used to in terms of Jedi, Sith, and all of that. And I find that wildly refreshing. So
sure, why not?
All right. Well, before I wrap this up, Uncle Todd threw a little ditty into the Week in Geek here. His own, like, if the Week in Geek is a subsection of the show, this is now a subsection of the show, which he has lovingly titled an honorarium of the man. Chic Tweet of the Week. What do we got, sir?
Make him humble.
That's right.
Just kind of going back, because for those of you who might have missed out on following the Iron Sheik on Twitter back when the man was still with us, quality follow. So I just figured I'd go back and maybe for the next couple shows here, however long people actually like it or how long it amuses me, then just go back through the archives and find an interesting Sheik tweet that'll just provide a little wisdom. And this one comes from June 21st of 2022. And it reads thusly: only one Iron Sheik, because of course this is all caps. Only one Iron Sheik, one Michael Jordan, and one Rob Thomas. Everyone else, go blank yourself. This is Rob Thomas, the real. End of tweet.
Oh, what a national treasure that man was. Oh my gosh. Well,
yeah.
on that unique and just funny note, that, my friends, is the Weekend Geek.
Well, thank you, sir, once again for pulling up all that Thronerific content. It is very well appreciated, and I'm totally killing time now so I can get my phone unlocked so we can start the show because I need the timer on my phone.
Oh, gosh.
So we're going to go PTI style on this one again. We're going to give ourselves 15 minutes per topic in the name of trying to, edge this episode in under 3 hours. We only have a couple topics here because, and actually, it seems like we're equally wrestling and DC balanced.
Yes.
So, I mean, this is going to be interesting. So let's start off with our first topic, sir. CM Punk returns to AEW Collision. Thoughts, sir?
Oh, I thought you were going to hit like a sound on the soundboard. You were look like you're going to press something there.
Oh, I was pressing the start button. You now wasted 8 seconds.
All right, no problem. Yeah. So after 10 months away, after a cupcake and whatever else he was, cupcake and seltzer induced rant that happened after.
Just
I've
weird.
never seen a guy put away more pastries.
Even by professional wrestling standards, CM Punk's like farewell press scrum is still one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in professional wrestling. To be talking that way about the company you're working for with the boss next to you, looking utterly flummoxed.
Yeah,
like he's just like, is this good? Is this are we making money? Huh?
And then some of the faces, like it doesn't even stop there. It's like when Tony Khan gets talking, Punk, just the faces he's making as he's looking at him, like, I'm just like, oh my gosh, what has happened to this guy? So anyways, after his I'm forgetting the pay-per-view, but after he won the AEW title, and there was a big brawl that kind of broke out after this post-event press conference. He had torn his tricep anyways. He was going to be injured and was going to be down for a period. But on top of it, there was the fight that happened between Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks himself, forgetting the guy's name, who runs with him, Ace something or other. I can't think of his name. He's an indie promoter. Anyways, they got into it and it turned into a big legal thing. And so he was gone. Like for a while, people thought he wasn't coming back at all. They would let him out of his contract. Funny thing is, while he was away, AEW's ratings have been slowly trickling down into the crapper. So, which, ladies and gentlemen, one would call that leverage.
Yeah. You could say that.
So,
my goodness,
Mr. Punk comes back last Saturday. Was it Saturday or Friday? No, it's Saturday.
Has anyone had more triumphant returns than this guy? By the way, like I don't think it's so. Incredible. Like.
And the pops
insane.
are just off the chart. I mean, the pops are just off the chart. It's just incredible. He has a following. He is a beloved, wrestler, and people just love to follow him. Either love to follow him or love to hate following him or something to that effect. But
I mean, it doesn't hurt either that when you play Cult of Personality, you realize just what a masterpiece of a song that is, and to be so closely identified with that and get like it just conveys everything about that dude. Like that song just feels like an audio middle finger to the world,
Absolutely.
It's awesome.
And what I think is interesting about him too, and why he does, I think a lot of what he did in WWE helped really cement him as a main event star, even though throughout his run there he wasn't treated as that. He wasn't given the main event slot, the last match of the night sort of thing. But during that time as world champion, I mean, when they ran through, I didn't watch the SmackDown, but when they did the whole presentation of Roman Reigns and they kind of ran through, the number of days he's been champion, and they show him passing, CM Punk. I mean, Punk was like number 6 for a period of time, number 5 or number 6 on the list, because he had like a 434-day reign, which, was unheard of. At a time when you were lucky to hold the belt for more than a month, because they were just hot swapping belts like crazy through most of the 2000s. So I think that whole run really established him. And then when he went away and people really wanted to see him, back because of he just has this aura about him. I mean, phenomenal talker. Guy can tell a story. I've never seen someone so comfortable on the microphone. You know what I mean? Like he just, he's probably prepared some of what he's saying in his head, to tell the story, but it just comes off like flawless. I mean, the exchanges between him and MJF were just amazing. Between him and Eddie Kingston were amazing. I mean, it was always, he just always brings an authenticity to what he says and what he, what the message he's trying to put forth. And this promo was no different.
Now, why do you think that is, in your opinion? Because you've watched a ton of professional wrestling, and you've seen a ton of promos and great promo guys. And of course you like almost gave Jake the Snake, like the best wrestler of those 4 decades in our countdown
a bunch of shows ago. Spite you.
You go right ahead. It's not spiting me. I can give a crap less. But almost based on his promo. Like, so what do you think about it? Because I have a theory, and I'm curious what your thoughts are as why he is so good as a storyteller.
Because I think he finds very creative ways, and this promo is a great example of it, of weaving truth into the story he's trying to tell. Like, he keeps things very reality based. And he anchors to things that have really, like, I think from what I've seen of him in like documentaries that I've watched about him, his formula for wrestling isn't hard. Like he basically looks at it as a business, treat it like, not that it's a real, fight exhibition sort of thing, but like treat it for the sport that it is, and treat your champions as champions, and drive your your conflict through, from real things that people can anchor to. I look at like when he faced Brock Lesnar, like on paper, him facing Brock Lesnar is a joke, right? It's like, how does a guy his size even compete with Brock Lesnar? And yet he and Lesnar at a SummerSlam, I think in the early 2010s, put on probably one of the best big man, little man matches I've ever seen. And it's because he brings an authenticity in his promos that's steeped in reality, and the fights that he puts on. Like when he came back to AEW, he fought all these different guys who were elevated, even though he beat them. They took him to the limit. I mean, I felt like he was basically playing kind of the older, worn down fighter. Like he still has something in the tank, but it's not like he can come out there and whip someone's rear end. Like it's going to take him a bit to get that W. And in the process, he was making a lot of the young wrestlers as he was doing it. And it was brilliant, because it's like he's coming in, he's winning, but every single one of those guys he fought went on to some feud afterwards where they carried some of the heat that he brought it's like, wow, this guy went toe to toe with Punk. And you start to see some legitimacy in him and stuff like that. So I think that's what he brings. I think it's a reality and really kind of anchoring to what people know to be true, and to, kind of play to the smart fans a little bit and what they understand in the business. But what's your theory on it?
I agree with what you're saying, and to tie into that reality aspect, I think it comes down to also he lives his gimmick. Like I really get it. I feel like this is not, I don't think Phil is this guy, everywhere, but I think that at its heart, this character of CM Punk is very much Phil Brooks? Is that his name?
Yeah.
Phil Brooks. It's just that turned up to 11, Oh my gosh, what a line that was. Oh, because everybody else in a business of counterfeit bucks. Oh,
bam!
And then to get like the crowd chanting "F the Elite." Oh
my gosh.
So
yeah.
Which leads me into this. So now apparently, so Punk is on this show, on this new show, Collision, right? And the Elite and the Bucks, all the VPs are on the other shows. So really, there's no crossover here. Like they're over there, he's over here. At least for now.
Not supposed to be. Yeah. Now, Tony Khan has said this is not representative of a true roster split. I think Punk's going to remain on that show. They're not going to cross the streams with him into any other shows where there's Bucks and Omega, because I think that stuff is not settled, or whatever legal stuff is going on there. But what's interesting is FTR, they're the tag team champions. They are huge Punk advocates. They're on the show. Samoa Joe, who Punk has had a long time, had great feuds with in Ring of Honor, and and from what I've read, are supposed to be very, very good friends. He's on the show, so they've kind of built like a good core group around him, and with him as the centerpiece. And quite honestly, I also wonder too if this is somewhat of an experiment. Like I could totally see, because like you said, I mean, in his promo, he talks about how he never really ever fit in. And that resonates true with fans. Like if they understand his background, they know like that isn't him talking about his character. It's him talking about him, that's what he was. He was a misfit. He was someone who didn't have a home really. And so they relate to that. And what I can almost see him doing is going to Tony Khan and saying, look, if I'm this albatross, like everyone says, give me a show, give me a roster of guys, and let's see what the ratings do. And if I'm really not what everyone thinks I am, then get rid of me at that point. Like I can totally see this being a play by him of saying, give us a show. Let's get another show out there with the roster we have, get some guys out there who don't get a lot of TV time. Let's build some folks up and let's run some old school pro wrestling stories as we do it. And I think that's what we're going to see here. Cause I really feel like what he did in his promo was, he threw some good zingers, but he also, kind of threw the gauntlet down. And I love I love that line he kept repeating throughout his promo, like, tell me when I'm telling lies. And when he takes those boots off and he's like, when there's actually someone who can fill these boots, then I'll walk away. I mean, that was such a mic drop. I mean, what a way to end a promo.
Oh yeah. And I mean,
God,
I agree completely with you, but here's my question to follow up all that. Like, I think we both are I think it's safe to say we're both with great promo. Yeah. We're both fans. I bet I'm ready to say that we're both CM Punk guys in the same way that
sure, 100%.
We're probably also Paul Heyman guys. Let me ask you this as a follow-up. Does Tony Khan have any control of his company whatsoever aside from signing checks?
I don't think so.
I don't either.
I don't think he does. I think he's trying to be the nice coach, right?
Oh my gosh. It's as bad as like Pete Carroll back in the New England Patriots days.
Pete Carroll,
Coach Fredo, like as Bill Simmons once called him. Coach, it's like,
my gosh,
oh my gosh, like to be in this position where you allowed some of your VPs, who you're foolish enough to make them VPs in the first place. And I mean, I would have thought that after watching, the shenanigans that like Hall and Hogan and some of these other folks had played in WCW and other areas for beyond the year, through the years, would have given anyone a hint like, hey, giving wrestlers like, a control over some of these things might not be the best idea. But allowing them to like chase off this money maker in Punk, and he's just like, okay, well, I mean, yeah, and of course he's injured, so it's not going to, but still, to just like let this happen, and then to be like, okay, well, I'll put him on his own show, and that way you can have your show, and this and that. I mean, dude, you own the company. You're the one footing the bill for this. Well, I mean, Daddy's footing the bill for it. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
It's not Tony's money necessarily. It's Shad's money, who's like, obviously.
Baltimore Ravens?
What's that?
Is Shad Baltimore Ravens or
no? It's Jacksonville Jaguars.
Oh, Jacksonville Jaguars. That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
And one of the best mustaches in the business. Oh, it is glorious. Oh my gosh.
Does it put Vince's to shame?
Oh, anything puts Vince's to shame. Like Mr. Henke going across your freaking upper lip puts Vince's to shame. That poo stain, like. So many things I could say, but no. If Shad Khan's mustache doesn't have its own Twitter account, we need to get in on that because it's glorious. It is glorious.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would agree. Like I don't think he has any control, which is interesting because here we are talking about like, and here's all the good things that could happen, and I agree that could happen with Collision and giving someone control and kind of like, hey, here's wrestling that makes sense. But you don't do these things if you actually have control of your company and your roster. You basically tell people like, this is what's going to happen. If you don't like it, go pound sand. just very interesting. I could care less about the wrestling. I'm very interested just to see what kind of show this turns out to be. And I'm not necessarily talking about like the show. I just mean the bleep show that's going to accompany the show.
Yeah. Ace Steel was the name of his running buddy that I was thinking of, because what I've read is
Ace Steel. Oh
so,
my gosh.
Yeah, he ran a school that
you're either going to be in wrestling or the movies that you have to go back behind the curtain for with a name like Ace Steel. Those are your two options in life, right there.
Oh dear. But like I read that like Punk and Steel was part of that brawl. I think Steel's wife was there too. But Steel is and Punk, I think, are part of the creative process there. And I thought I read somewhere that Khan didn't book much of the show. I think it was all kind of booked by, the folks they put in charge there. So I don't know. I mean, I'm curious to see how the show does. I might actually come back and watch a little. I mean, I honestly stopped watching for a while. I got a little bit into. I really think Kenny Omega versus CM Punk would be an amazing match to see, because they're both just very very similar, very different. Both self-made. Omega didn't make his name in WWE. He's made his name over in Japan and just working the independents, and now and he's kind of built an aura as well about himself of being this really strong, technical, striking kind of wrestler. And Punk is also a striker and also has built an aura, in his own way. I mean, we've joked about it in the past. Punk has the furthest thing from a pro wrestling body, and yet he gets in there and he has these great technical matches. And I just the visual doesn't matter to me at that point. It's watching the action and seeing the story he's telling in the ring. And it's always just fun to watch. So it's a shame that we most likely won't see Punk Omega soon, but it's good to see Punk back nonetheless. There we go.
I still say it's a bad idea to let your wrestlers run your show, but
Absolutely.
What do I know? I don't have billions in the bank that Daddy is letting me spend.
No.
All right, so you want to take this next topic and kind of get in on what we're doing here?
Yeah, so after WrestleMania 39 and the return of Vince McMahon, Uncle Todd has exiled himself from the world of professional wrestling, understandably so.
For the most part, yeah. I've caught a couple minutes here and there. A couple of YouTube videos. I actually turned on one of the shows at some point. But yeah, not really all that involved.
Pulling him back.
Yeah, not really.
But 2 months later, when we came out of WrestleMania 39, we were a bit sore about that main event finish. We were sitting there like, what the heck were they thinking? What the heck? Well, we're 2 months.
What the hell was that?
There we go. That's what I was waiting for. All right. Well, 2 months later, here we are. And how is that WrestleMania 39 main event still looking to us at this point? And the reason I'm asking this question is with 2 months behind us, or almost 3 months now, we have the following that have taken place. We have had 2 matches between Cody Rhodes and Brock Lesnar that have really defied the norm for a Brock Lesnar match in many ways. The first being a match down in Puerto Rico, which had a huge big fight feel to it, where Lesnar was bleeding like a stuck pig of his own doing, charging full bore into I think I don't know if the turnbuckle pad was off or if he just went into the pole, but he was bleeding like a son of a gun, and Cody put him away and beat him. And then the story they pick up from there is that Cody got lucky and Lesnar wanted to tear him apart, broke his arm, still fought him in a match, and he submits Cody, not submitting him, but Cody passes out a la Austin. And so now you have, and the great part is every week Cody's coming out and he's cutting these amazing promos about Lesnar, about how Lesnar is afraid of him. And in the second match, even though Lesnar has him in that submission, he walks away from him with a look on his face like, what the heck? This guy just did not quit. He did not, I did not conquer him. And so kind of like we were talking about Punk, they're hitting these notes with these two. That is it's there's no title on the line here, but the matches just are telling a great deep story that is multi-layered, and it's really been a pleasure to watch. And I think what they're now building toward is a SummerSlam basically rubber match between the two of them, which I've read rumors that it could be. I guess they nixed the idea of a dog collar match, but they were going to do some kind of old school, match like that. I don't know if they're going to do like a strap match or where they're like connected by a strap or something like that. But I'm guessing they're going to go with something brutal. But so that's Cody Rhodes. The other side of the equation is Roman Reigns. And we are recording this after about 4 or 5 days after we saw the super kicks hit around the world, as both the Usos have said bye-bye to Papa Roman. And I don't know, did you watch the YouTube clip of that?
I've seen a little bit of it. Yeah.
Honest to God, like, the way they pulled that off was just, it was perfect. You had, I forget if it was Jimmy or Jay, super kick him once.
Yeah, it was Jay first.
Was it Jay first? Okay.
Yeah, because Roman was talking to him like how he made him big main event Jey Uso or something like that. Yeah.
And so you think one Uso's throwing the other out of the bloodline, but then he ends up, saying we're both out, and he boots Roman. They take out Solo. Now they're both standing there, or they're both leaving the ring, and Roman's pitching a fit, like you get, just playing up the arrogant champion at this point. And he gets on his feet, and they turn around, and it was just like the perfectly timed super kick and reaction to it. Like the way he snapped back onto the mat, I'm like, and the crowd just goes insane. And it's like the bloodline is over, So in 3 months' time, we've gone from the bloodline holding all the gold to now it's down to Roman and the wise man and Solo. So it's just, and each step of the way that they got there was just, just so well done. They've been sneaking, those moments of Sammy in there as that reminder of the one who started all of this, who left. I think during that show this past Friday, there was just a moment where Jay walks by Sammy, and they just look at each other, and he just kind of, they don't say a word to each other. Just Sammy nods and just walks off. Like I've seen that look before because I had that look myself, sort of thing, and he knew it was going to happen. So all that to say, if we are truly moving to a WrestleMania 40 main event where, if the story is going to go the way it's going to go, Roman goes in there alone, or maybe just with the wise man, against Cody for the second time, so no one to bail him out this time, and he loses, let's say, at WrestleMania 40, does that change the dynamics of how we felt? Like in these 3 months after, do you see the wisdom of Triple H saying, this is just a chapter in a story, we're turning the page, there's a lot more story left to tell? What do you think?
Again, I would have to see how 40 plays, how WrestleMania plays out, and how that all works out, and how they do it. Again, because the execution is everything.
Yeah,
it is everything, and that's what we've seen with the Bloodline stuff. I will give them credit; the stuff has been executed very well with them throughout.
Yeah.
It's the thing that gets me. And I'm gonna leave Vince out of this because, of course, there's always rumors now that Vince is still, phoning in his changes for Raw and SmackDown and stuff like that. And I guess this past Raw, there was several big changes to the first half hour of the show and all this that were apparently all Vince's ideas and whatever. I'm gonna try and set all that aside. I think the odd thing to me is you had the Bloodline being such a great story. But unfortunately, to me, like, Cody has kind of gotten lost in all this. And maybe you're going to circle back around, but is it going to be the same having to go through Brock and then loop back through to Roman? Like, I get it that you have to strip a lot of the barriers and a lot of the layers of protection away from Roman to then make it more one-on-one, so that in a way you don't completely bury him. In a way, because then it could be, well, you beat me one-on-one, that sort of thing, rather than Cody is now superhuman for taking out the entire bloodline. I get that. I don't know. There's just something about it that to me feels like I can't quite put a name to it. It feels like it's big, but yet now we're kind of going around we're circling the airport again. That's the feeling I get. And Not sure I love it. But I kind of understand from a storytelling perspective now why you kind of have to do this. In the same, it feels a little bit like how they've had to introduce this new championship belt that Seth Rollins, I believe he still has. I don't know.
Yes, he does.
Because they couldn't figure out a good way to get the belts or one belt off of Roman without taking shine off of him and screwing up the bloodline story. It kind of feels like, all right, you've painted yourself into a series of corners, and yet you've managed to somehow, find a window that you can escape out of.
Yeah.
But it still feels like you painted yourself into a corner. You know what I mean? So something about it just doesn't quite sit right with me, even though I kind of understand.
Okay.
Does that make any sense at all?
It does. I mean, the thing I like, I would agree with you with Cody if it was not, like he's getting a good sequence of opponents. Like he's not, but between now and SummerSlam, it looks like he's feuding with Dominic Mysterio, which I think is, I mean, Dominic's just a heat machine right now. Everyone hates him. I can see him doing something, right? And I can see them doing something where he gets a cheap win off of Cody, and then Cody gets it back, going into SummerSlam or something like that. But the fact they went with Lesnar, and again, going back to what we said with Punk, that when you can anchor your stories in either reality or past history that has been established, it helps the story have more impact and the promos have more impact. And I think I said to you, especially after the pay-per-view down in Puerto Rico when Cody won, he now has great material to use against Roman next time when he starts to introduce some of that doubt, when Roman, much as he will do, rub it in his face that, he couldn't get the job done in the big, main event. How is he going to do it again? And Cody just has to look at him and say, it took you how many years to finally beat Brock? And I did it on my first try. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and Cody would do it in a way with the way he does his promos where it would come off much better than I just said it. But damn, when he says that is going to resonate with the fans, because Lesnar fell to him. And if Cody wins this series of matches, Cody will have been more dominant against Lesnar than Roman was, which is more doubt for Roman. You know what I mean? Like it plays into that doubt thing that they like to, that thread they like to pull on with him sometimes, where and he does an amazing job selling self-doubt, like leading up to WrestleMania was I mean, sometimes it wasn't even what Roman said, it was his facials, it was the way he was acting that was really telling the story. And so so I think it was anyone other than Lesnar and some of the folks they're lining up, I would agree that Cody's getting lost. I think they're building a context around him where he's going to have some really great stuff to banter back and forth with Roman on, that I think will just help build their run toward another WrestleMania main event. So that's my thought. Okay. But I understand what you're saying.
So you mentioned Dominic, which I kind of want to, we got like 4 minutes left here, because I don't have much left to say on than what we've said, because I think you actually summed it up pretty well, and you managed to take my thoughts and congeal them into something and then actually shine that turd up a little bit and present it. So thank you.
3 hours sleep, baby. Woo!
I know. But I want to use the rest of the time to talk about Dominic, because I think this is so interesting, because I can't decide if Dominic has like legit heat, if he has X-Pac heat, if he has, I don't understand what kind of heat he has right now, because, and don't say Latino heat, because it's just way too easy. But the weird thing about Dominic is, I don't care about the rest of Judgment. I don't care about Finn Balor or Damian Priest. Damian Priest to me is probably, to me, like, Finn Balor is the least impressive member of Judgment Day. I don't like, he's the least interesting out of all of them. Like he's kind of the Muppet of the group. I don't get it. Dominic is so interesting because they have him paired up with Rhea Ripley, who is like, has become this internet icon. And everybody, like, even people who are like, they know that Rhea is a heel, love them some Rhea Ripley. Love them some Rhea Ripley, and they hate them some Dominic Mysterio. It is like, I gotta say, like, that is a great pairing. Like, whoever came up with this idea, chef's kiss. Like, because it's the only, sometimes it feels like the only thing keeping Dominic afloat is the fact that, like, the life preserver that is Rhea Ripley and the bottomless like well of like just people thinking like she's awesome, even though they're like, oh my gosh. And I'm among them. I think Rhea Ripley is incredible. And has that it factor.
Yep.
That is just so that she has like so much charisma. It's like she's just kind of like, okay, Dom, here, I'll lend you some charisma. Here you go.
Yeah.
It's like lending a kid like $20 to go see a movie. Here you go.
Yep.
Go have fun. You know?
Enjoy.
It's like
Off you
it's
go.
amazing. Oh my god. But does that make any sense? Like do you feel it the same way?
I do. I mean, I kind of feel like they did something very smart with him because they took, I think ultimately the fans weren't going to have as much of a reaction with him as a babyface as they do with a heel now.
Oh, yeah, totally.
They played up a great story with him and his father. They kept him apart for a really long time, you know, where Ray would not lay a hand on him. He would just turn the other cheek and walk away. And the other thing they did with him was kind of manufacture this, you know, as much as I said, you know, where Punk's mystique is in him anchoring in reality, I think where Mysterio's heat comes from is the way he plays up this what's the word? Not elevated, but this blown out version of himself where he thinks he's this great wrestler. And
he is like overinflated ego. Like
overinflated. Yeah. And he gets these cheap victories that, you know, he doesn't deserve. And to me, you know, I get the question, is it X-Pac or not? Like, I think it's different from X-Pac in that, like there are heels who were so good because, I mean, Rowdy Piper was like this. They were so good as heels because people did not ever want to see them win. And when they saw them win and saw them win through nefarious means, you know, over, you know, someone who had fought a valiant fight, it made them hate them even more.
Oh,
and that's what Dom has been building up. Is his heat is based in the fact that people look at him and it's like, you're the son of a legend who is clearly in this business way too early because of who your dad is, you know, so there's almost like the privilege piece of it. Then there's the fact that he, you know, is he the strongest wrestler right now? Not really. I mean, he's gotten better. I mean, he's definitely getting his game, you know, through all this wrestling he's doing, and it's much improved from where he was when he started. But, you know, getting victories or manhandling some of these guys when it's because the other members of his group have beaten that person into submission, and now he comes in and he acts like he's dominating them, is infuriating to people. Even in the 2020s, it's like this is like Heat 101 for heels, and we're all falling for it still. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He's doing a masterful job of that, and it does really help that, you know, and that what adds to that is the fact that, quite honestly, Rhea Ripley could smash Dominic.
Yes.
You just look at her. My God, like I would put her up against Dominic and friggin' Finn Balor in a handicap match, and she comes out on top.
Yes.
Like, well, then again, as she has pointed out, you know, mommy's always on top, which I'm like,
good God.
Well, and Dominic's reaction to that, I will give him some credit, like just the way he kind of opened his eyes, like, and then kind of shrugs, like, like, oh God. That's good, kid. That's good. You keep that.
And tell me how much of a babyface pop there would be if they ever get to a point where Rhea Ripley goes face and she just hauls off and pops him. Like, that is going to be like the biggest pop from the fans to see, you know, this guy that they just loathe finally get his comeuppance from the gal, like you said, who could probably wipe the ring with him. You know what I mean? Like it's
totally.
Gosh. So anyways, but bringing it back to the bloodline, I think WrestleMania 39 is I'm bought into the Triple H philosophy. I'll just say that. I'll just say that. All right.
Well,
do you want to lead off this next
segment,
one, since this is all DCEU and you're all about it?
Oh yeah, I'm so in the bag for the DCEU. So I entitled this next selection a little something called "Gone in a Flash." And how bad is the Flash tanking? So apparently it has the lowest reviews of any of the movies so far in DCEU. However, it's like a B or a B minus. I forget what the ranking was. It's not like it's a D or anything like that. Of course, these are all probably padded. But it is not being well received. It only made, I think, like 100 No, it made like 55 million or something like that, 133 million worldwide or something on its own. It's not even close to being on pace to make back its budget.
Yeah.
The budget and marketing, because they spent a ton of money on the marketing for this movie. So, there's of course the theories of, there's many different things here at play, because as usual, DC is, and by extension, Warner Brothers is a dumpster fire within a dumpster fire within a dumpster fire that's being pushed off of a cliff into a larger dumpster fire. So, I mean, what do you think is the cause for this? Do you think that, one, it's, it maybe, I don't know, Ezra, the one-man crime wave Miller, it may be box office poison? Perhaps.
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
Perhaps. Is it really crappy storytelling and piss poor effects? Or might it be, and I'm just spitballing here, the fact that you kind of like, because of these factors, you had to hang the entire marketing for this movie around the neck of Michael Keaton returning to Batman.
Yeah.
Because, and that's not even taking into account the fact that this movie is like a kind of a dead end to nowhere, even though James Gunn is trying to play it off like, oh no, it resets the entire DC universe. Okay, sure. Whatever. We all know this guy ain't coming back, and you're trashing a whole bunch of stuff. So please, don't insult my intelligence, James. So what do you think is the cause? Because I haven't seen it. My daughter did see it and kind of came back, and she loves her some Flash. Like she loved the Flash TV show. Huge fan of that. Her response to this movie when she came home, she's like, meh.
Yeah.
Like, that was literally her review. Meh.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she loves all superhero movies. I gotta say, that doesn't look good.
I think it just, it is well documented our feelings on how DC has completely fumbled, their universe plans,
you are worse than Hulk Hogan.
Yes, thank you, Shiki. You're 100% on that. I think it goes back to just not having a solid foundation to build on. I mean, I read the basic gist of the story. He goes back in time, or he's doing some time traveling. I mean, that right there is I don't mean to say it's the kiss of death, but if you're going to the time travel well, like right out of the gate, and you haven't had a good like origin story, I mean, you're looking to disappoint, because things get very, very complicated when you start to do time travel. And I'll be honest, I went on Wikipedia. I read basically the whole rundown of the movie, because I'm not going to the theater to see it. I'll be honest. I just wanted to see what it was about in preparation for this. And story wise, it sounded like on the surface an interesting story. Hero trying to save parent, through means of their powers, because they're trying to preserve something that's out of their control, and in the process they wreak havoc and all of that. But the fact that I just think the fact that there isn't really a strong connection, I think, with fans and the Flash. I mean, I don't sit here as the paragon of pop culture, but I got to be honest. I mean, when I was into Iron Man, I was into Iron Man while the rest of the world was into Iron Man. The Flash, I don't feel has ever really registered. And to your point, the person behind playing the Flash hasn't done himself any favors, in terms of, the activities that have gone on, outside of the movie. So it's just kind of like, it's just kind of like a kiss of death on multiple fronts, and is in that the story, while on the surface had some interesting twist to it, as I read it, I'm like, this sounds extremely confusing and complicated, because this whole idea that, the Batmans are taking on different forms because he's changing the timelines, and the Supermans are taking different forms. And I'm just like, then what is reality? Like, when you start messing with stuff that much that you can't anchor onto anything. And it's like, I mean, I've used the word anchor a lot tonight. I think oh my gosh. I think I want to anchor myself to my bed because I'm tired. But nonetheless,
you've been thinking about the former pro wrestler Tugboat. Toot toot toot.
There we go. All comes back to wrestling, folks. That's my thought. Is I just think it is, they're still paying a price for not having invested in strong origin stories to kick off their universe. They hit the accelerator. They try to do too much too quickly, and they're just going to continue to pay a price. And now they're also fighting an uphill battle. Maybe this is an episode unto itself, but I've seen articles cropping up, and I would tend to agree. Are we getting to a point where we're a bit, worn out on superhero movies? Did Marvel just strike it rich when, there was gold to be struck? And now, I'm not saying everything's bad, but I'm just saying it's, Guardians of the Galaxy was good. Ant-Man and the Wasp was not. And who knows, I think everyone kind of agrees Phase 4 has been a little rough. It hasn't exactly, lived up to the prior phases, that preceded it. Are people just getting worn out, and now DC comes in trying to do their own thing. And it's like, well, I'm not really plugged into it, so it's like, it's hard for me to get excited and connected to it. And so I just think, as we've talked about before, they're fighting with a litany of problems that prevent there being a deep connection with any kind of fan base to muster folks to come to a theater and spend their money and spend their time watching something like this. And I have a feeling it's just going to continue.
Yeah, no, I agree. To me, it reminds me of there was a book that I got. I think Michael Felger wrote it before he went completely spit insane. Or no, I'm thinking of another guy from the Boston sports scenes. But anyways, it was like Tales from the Patriots Sideline or something like that. And they talked about, how at one point the Patriots back in like the late 70s, early 80s, they had a coach, and the general manager wanted to fire him, and he couldn't fire him. And so he ended up making a bet with the owning partners of the team that if the coach lost a certain game, then he would then have the power to fire the coach. Like, this is the absurd stuff that would happen with the Patriots. And so they didn't fire him, and then the team ended up tanking the next year. And so the general manager finally gets to fire the head coach. He goes down, has a meeting with the team. He says, I just want to let everyone know that I fired the coach, and we have a plan. We're on the right direction. We're going to be heading into a new era of stability, and things are going to be going strength to strength, and blah, 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 blah. Like, a few weeks later, the owner fires the general manager and comes down and sees the team. He says, I just want you all to know that I fired the general manager. We have a plan. We're sticking to that plan. We're going to be heading into a new era of stability. And it's like new boss, same as the old boss. That's what this reminds me of, because it's like, we keep going through these things of like, oh no, there's a plan. That's a plan. We'll get to that in the next section. But I think for me, one of the ththings that comes down, like, just baseline, taking out the absolute shite person that apparently Ezra Miller is. Honestly, I never really found him that appealing as the Flash. Like, as an actor, I did not dig his portrayal. I think if you're looking at a super fast hero, I think either of the Quicksilvers in the Marvel universe were at least a little bit more interesting. And that's saying something, because one of them didn't even make it through a full movie. Ezra Miller really just never did anything for me as the Flash, and he was an add-on character, and he was a bit player in the movies leading up to everything. And I mean, and this should have been an origin, although I don't know how much of an origin you need, because you already had 5, 6, 7 seasons of the Flash on TV. But of course, they didn't acknowledge that. So that was a whole other thing. Like, again, it's just like disappointment after opportunities to set things up, and you just refuse to take them. To me, this character never seemed like one that I'm like, oh, I have to see more of this guy.
It almost
never
seems
felt
like
that way about him.
It almost seems like, though, he I don't mean to make him equivalent to, but he seems in many ways similar to how Marvel handled the Incredible Hulk. Like, they didn't try to do, once they did the first Hulk movie, they didn't ever try to do another one. Hulk just appeared as a side character in Avengers or in other movies.
Well, you know why that was, right?
No, I don't. I just assumed it was because they didn't really feel like they had a strong story to tell with him.
Well, partly, if I'm not wrong, and I might be wrong on this, I believe they did not have the licensing rights to make an Incredible Hulk movie because those were with Universal for the longest time, and they essentially had the rights to use Hulk in movies, but not to make their own Hulk movie.
Gotcha.
And I think some of the other reasoning that I heard is and I agree with this, from a story standpoint, Hulk is much more interesting as a player in other people's stories.
Yes. And that's where I was going with Flash. I think Flash is kind of like that, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And I think you make an excellent point there. Yeah, I think this guy is a little bit more interesting being part of other people's story and kind of being a way of reflecting those characters.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did not need this movie. And it makes it even worse, the fact that you now know, like, this movie is kind of just a dead end.
Yeah.
And then expecting people to come out and see it just because, hey, look, Michael Keaton is Batman. You like Michael Keaton as Batman, don't you?
Yeah.
That was the Batman from Bat. It's like almost completely ignoring the fact that, like, hey, yeah, and then like 2 months I get to see that on HBO Max or whatever the hell the app is called, if the app is in business that long. I mean,
not Cine Max.
Oh my gosh!
Ace
But I mean,
Steel
yeah,
starring in his next movie. Oh, sorry.
Ooh, nicely done. Actually, yeah, it would be like, you know, Ace Steel in like silk sheets or something. You know, straight to video. This and yeah, never mind. Okay, there was a lot of comments I was going to make right there, and I am not going to do it.
Good restraint, sir. Good restraint.
Oh, thank you. But yeah, no, I think that they're just ignoring the fact that, like, yeah, I can stream this later. I don't have to wait 6 months for this to come out on video. It'll be on my TV very soon.
Yeah.
I don't have to go and spend $15 to go see this in the theater. I can see Michael Keaton Batman quite nicely in a little bit of time.
Yeah.
There's no urgency. Like,
right.
Okay, like, what do I have to, at least with the Marvel movies, you're kind of like, well, I kind of want to see this because there's another movie coming up and I kind of want to fill in the blanks. With this, it's like, well, this ain't going anywhere anyways. What's the rush? You know?
Yeah.
And just, I also, you know, my daughter was also saying effects weren't all that great. And, you know, and again, it all hung on to like Batman. I'm like, this movie is The Flash, right?
Yeah.
Because it seems like, you know, it like, you know, Batman in The Flash. Like, try to do everything you can not to mention this guy, you know?
It's you know, it's like The Rock says, you got to work that gimmick, baby. Work it.
Oh, it's like, you know, it's like the Rock doing the promo with Billy Gunn. God, my name is Ezra. Yes, is he? No, it's Ezra. It doesn't matter what your name is.
Oh my gosh.
And on that note, let's move on to more DC bashing, because you know what? It never gets old, because we have DCU DOA, and this is probably part 5 of this topic because we've delved into this before. However, this is talking about a Variety article about Shazam 2, Flash, and Blue Beetle, and Aquaman 2. Now, this is interesting, if only because $1.1 billion for these 4 movies that are probably going to make a quarter of that.
Yeah.
This is like the anti-Avatar, really. It's amazing how little these movies are making. And a question for you, have you seen the Blue Beetle trailer?
No, I didn't even realize Blue Beetle. Well, I think we had mentioned it maybe in a Week in Geek, but I had totally forgotten about it.
It looks so generic. It really does. It's like, it's like a little bit of Moon Knight, a little bit of Iron Man, and hey, you like comic book movies, right, kids?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it actually, no, this is what it is. It's Moon Knight, Miss Marvel, and Iron Man kind of mashed together. That's what it feels like to me. And I'm like, I've already seen these things. I don't need to see a lesser version of them. And at the same time, I'm like, is everything okay with Susan Sarandon and George Lopez? Do they need money? Because why are they in this movie?
Yeah.
Like, who talked them into this? Actually, George Lopez, I can understand. Susan Sarandon, I'm a little more curious about.
Yeah.
Like, does Tim Robbins have a problem that we don't know about? But yeah, so they've spent approximately all the money making these movies and are now like, shocked Pikachu face, like that people are not rushing out to see them. Like,
what happened?
Because you basically, then you fired everyone involved with these movies, handed the entire thing over to James Gunn, who has been very vocal about like, all right, hey, we're rebooting everything, and it's all going to be all new.
Yeah.
And then they realized very quickly the error of that. Like, oh yeah, and we've got these 4 movies coming out that we want people to see because we need to make money.
That's the line in the article that made me laugh the hardest was, I think it's in the second or third paragraph, where it's like, yet these movies were conceived and greenlit by an executive team that have all departed the studio. So they're basically committed to these movies that no one who originated them are even around to make any money off of it. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah, and they spent so much. It's not like they can Batgirl this out of existence and write it off. Like, these movies are gigantic.
Yeah,
there's real money that has been put behind these. And so Shazam 2 did, and now The Flash is doing. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say Blue Beetle is going to, and Aquaman 2 is just going to get flushed down the toilet.
Look,
because
Blue Beetle is going to be DC's version of Iron Man. You just watch.
It kind of is. That's the sad thing. It's like discount. It's like we don't need to get Iron Man. We have Iron Man at home.
But I mean, it's going to be like the diamond in the rough. Everyone's going to write it off, and it's going to be this thing that sparks all of this interest and kicking off. And James Gunn is going to be like, why didn't I start everything with Blue Beetle, not the Blue Superman? You know what? It's
going to be so far in the rough. It's going to be like that scene in Tin Cup where he has to hit the ball off of the portal. Get back on the that's how far in the rough they are.
This is how tired I am.
But laughing at a bad Tin Cup joke.
Good
but
Lord.
It's crazy, man. Like, I started watching this video about James Gunn trying to basically walk back some of that and talking about like the breakdown of Chapter 1 of the DCU, and he's trying to talk up Shazam 2 and The Flash. He's like, oh, these are fantastic movies. I really love this movie. And he gets to Blue Beetle. He's like, this is another fantastic movie. And I'm like, okay, you're totally overusing that word. I know that this is now hyperbole. And then he gets to Aquaman. And he's like, and then Aquaman is this other movie that then leads into this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, he didn't even like give Aquaman 2 a fantastic like that. Yeah. That means that is the drizzling poops, to paraphrase Jim Cornette.
Oh man.
We know that this isn't going to be bad. I mean, oh my gosh, like it's incredible. And going back to what you were saying, I think, which is a valid point. And I'm curious to see how you come down this subject, the idea of like just superhero movie fatigue, and the idea that it's such there's work to be done in order to be able to follow these movies. Now you have to have a backlog of information, and you have to understand what's going on and what came before and all that. And are people really into it that much? And I would ask you, how do you feel about this? Do you think there's fatigue, and do you think that it becomes almost like you have to like when we talked about playing Madden before, like you almost have to practice in order to play the game. It's like, I just want to play the game.
Right.
How do you feel about those two things?
Yeah. I think it's I mean, not to sound too much like I'm in the bag for Marvel, but first one through, wins, and Marvel was there first. I will say even if DC were to come up with some compelling origin stories steeped in reality that had layered storytelling to them, they probably at this stage would still ring a little hollow, because we've been through, 2 phenomenal Black Panther movies. We've been through, Iron Man. We've been through Avengers, Infinity War and Endgame. We've seen Captain America. I mean, we've been through so many quality origin stories that I just wonder if it'll just be derivative, and just not feel unique and not feel like something different and engaging. And so I think part of it's fatigue, but I think part of it is DC is just a victim of timing and trying to establish something at a time when maybe people are looking for something new and not, seeing kind of the same thing recycled over and over again, I'm certainly curious to see what James Gunn has planned for Superman, because, again, I think the other thing that plagues DC is where so many of their heroes and villains are gods. it's just hard to relate, and it's hard to really invest yourself in a story like that. I get, I'm talking to a Star Wars fan who believes in space magic and Jedi and Sith and all this sort of stuff, but I guess I don't know quite how to articulate it, but there's something about DC that's just not genuine. It just doesn't feel genuine. It doesn't feel like I can connect to it in the same way. I go back to Iron Man. Like, I never expected to be a Marvel fan. I never followed comics when I was growing up. I didn't collect comic books. And yet when I see Iron Man, it hooks me, and because it appeals to me as a technologist, and it appeals to, just bringing that fictional world to some measure of reality and groundedness that, you just hadn't really experienced before. How do you do that with Superman? I mean, yes, you have Clark Kent, but when he becomes Superman and becomes the invincible God, it's like, where's the struggle there? You have to kind of manufacture things, and at least up to this point, it hasn't been done in a compelling way for me. Maybe there's something to be said, in the future, but that's what I think they're dealing with, is just, fatigue, poor timing, and, just a sense of or just a lack of creativity when it comes to the stories. Like can they put forth compelling stories that can engage audiences? And they haven't shown their ability to do that yet.
Agreed. I think that the last paragraph in this variety story, ultimately the most important factor remains quality. Quote, there can be audience fatigue when it comes to the obligation of having to watch 20 movies to understand a new one, says one exec, but it doesn't matter when the movie is good.
Amen.
That's the thing. And even Marvel has stumbled. And Marvel was knocking this out of the park for a long time. Mm-hmm. And I think it came down to overextending. I think they oversaturated. They were trying to put out too many movies in a year, and they've kind of backed off of that a little bit, and they seem like they're regrouping a little bit. But yeah, it comes down to just, you got to make good flicks. You got to tell a good story and execute it well. The same way as, like, I have to wait and see how WrestleMania turns out, because it's all in the execution. It's kind of the same with the movies. Like, great concept, but if the execution is bad, well, who cares, And I think DC, there is something to, again, the merit of, like, being the first through the door, because now everyone's trying to be them.
Right.
And DC has been desperately trying to be Marvel. Oh my, it's sad. It really is sad just watching them chase them.
Yep.
It's like the old cartoon with the big dog and the little dog, hey, this Spike, hey, shut up. It's the same thing. And I just don't see it.
Yeah.
I don't see how you turn this around and make it work, especially when you really haven't seen, and everyone points to, like, this idea of, like, oh, well, after watching Guardians 3, James Gunn totally knows what he's doing. And I was like, yeah, and James Gunn is also one who gave us The Suicide Squad.
Mm-hmm.
Keep in mind, like, that movie had moments, but not nearly as many moments as a Guardians movie, which is either, maybe the characters aren't as good, or maybe James is one of those folks, like a lot of us, myself included, who doesn't have all good ideas and needs somebody to be like, hey, no, that one's great.
Yeah.
And kind of guide through that.
Yep.
But left unfettered, we wind up with, his version of, I don't know, Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, just over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Everyone loves a good trade dispute. I don't know.
Especially at 1 a.m.
Walking out of that movie, I was questioning my own existence. It was the most it was like the most philosophically bankrupt I've ever felt. I'm like, what? Who am I really?
But not questioning our friendship after I told you to go watch it.
Oh, I was questioning that. I certainly was. I didn't say nothing because I'm pretty sure you drove, so I needed a ride home. But I was definitely questioning that. Like, that's it. We're done.
We're done.
All those years of buying beer. But then I thought, then it got me thinking. I'm like, is this payback for all those times that I called him up to pick me up at the bar? Like, he was just playing the long game.
Damn Skippy.
Oh yeah. So anyways, I don't know. I think it's DCU is DOA.
It is. So saith the Reaper. That was well
I love
done.
how you jumped. The man they called Tim over in the Blair Witch Suite jumped up. He was like, ah.
Well, it was great when you said DOA and it just like came in bong. It's like, oh yeah, the Undertaker gong. You're done. You're done. You finished.
And another thing.
All right, sir. Well, what have you got for and another thing this episode?
I'm going to the well once again, but I'm doing so after having watched just a great season 3. I know I've read articles that have where fans have questioned if just the quality of season 3 of Ted Lasso, and where it's unclear if the series has wrapped up or not, but it definitely felt that way at the end. But if you have not seen Ted Lasso, it is a just funny and very heartfelt story, really dealing with some very kind of serious issues that I think a lot of folks deal with, but doing it in the context of this out of fish American football coach coaching soccer in England.
I believe you mean fish out of water.
What's that?
I believe you mean fish out of water, because you just said out of fish.
Oh,
that was the entire phrase that you used. I'm like, an out of fish, like, is it an out of body experience for the fish? And what would an out of body experience be?
3 hours of sleep.
You know what? I'm going to bring in Ed Fett to finish this one up. Accounting tips from Ed Fett.
Accounting and part-time podcaster.
Make sure you save your bounty hunter receipts.
That's right.
You can write those repairs off.
The Galactic Tax Code demands it. Yes, fish out of water story of an American football coach coaching soccer for the first time in England. Season 1 was just wonderful. Season 2 was excellent with really interesting story. And season 3, I mean, just overall the series is a great, just a great story around forgiveness, around dealing with mental health issues, but doing so in a way that's not heavy-handed. I mean, it was just done in a very skillful and artful way. And just, I just really enjoyed it. It's, I mean, if Schitt's Creek is at my, the top for me, Ted Lasso is right there with it, if not far, that much further behind. So, do check it out. It is just a phenomenal show. And my wife and I started watching it. We started watching it then with our sons, and our sons glommed onto it and really enjoyed it, which doesn't normally happen. So it's now become kind of a family viewing thing for us. But I mean, just a lot of comedy, really good comedy in it, and just some very, very heartfelt stories. So do check it out. It is on Apple TV. Ted Lasso. Season 3, but if you haven't seen it before, watch all 3. You will not be disappointed.
I started watching that, and much like a lot of shows, I haven't been able to find the time commitment to really binge them. Like I've been very choosy about the stuff I've been watching, which leads into mine, because this past week, Star Trek Strange New Worlds premiered their season 2 season premiere, and excellent. I so love Strange New Worlds. I believe we're getting one more season of Star Trek Discovery, which is another show that I absolutely love, mostly because that show has pissed off so many Star Trek fans. Yes, let the hate flow through you. And I know that's crossing my metaphors. I wasn't prepared for that.
Do it.
Bingo.
But I love it. I really enjoy this show. I think the actors have been cast perfectly, and just overall, just a fantastic show.
Nice.
And I feel like it manages to, where some people felt like Discovery, I think, was too much about the overarching story and all that. This kind of gets more back to like the OG series and Next Generation, where it very much is like episodes adventure of the week.
Yeah.
But there is carryover. There's definitely carryover. There are definitely themes that carry over throughout the season. But it is much more of like an OG Star Trek movie show. And I do enjoy that about it, because I love me just a nice yarn that kind of wraps up in one episode, and then I'm on with my life. But it's just very well done, very well acted. I would highly recommend it. Go back, watch the first season. It's excellent. You might need to go and watch Star Trek Discovery, because it was a spin-off of that show. So you do first get introduced to a couple of the characters there, Captain Pike specifically, in that show, and then it kind of springboards into Strange New Worlds, although you can probably get away with it and it kind of catch can. But it is well worth it. It is on Paramount Plus. Highly recommend it. Star Trek Strange New Worlds.
Excellent.
Have you watched the Strange New Worlds?
I have not. I watched, I think, the first couple episodes of Discovery, and then I just, similar to you, I just wasn't able to find the time. We're kind of working through right now a Future and another thing, Succession. We're watching that right now.
Oh, yeah, I want to catch that. There's so many shows. Like, another one that I started watching that, oh my gosh, it's so wrong that it's so right. The Righteous Gemstones on...
I remember you telling me about that, yeah.
Oh my gosh, it is like... bat spit insane and just so wrong, but at the same time I'm like, I kind of really like this show, and I feel like I'm going to hell for it. But
gosh. Oh my goodness.
But anyways, so give it a watch if you can. If not, put it in the queue, and some night when you can't sleep, start binging it. It'll be great. You won't
have to
regret
move
it.
on to that one after we do Succession, I think.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you all for listening and tuning in for another episode. Thank you all to the members of the Free Range Idiocy congregation. If you're curious how you can join the congregation, it's actually really simple. You just download the episodes and you listen to it. It sounds a lot better than what it really is, which is actually kind of how I describe this show. It sounds a lot better than what it really is. The idea is much better and poorly executed. But you know what? We're charming.
We anchor to things. We really do.
You're wrong. Shut up, Wesley.
Anyways, so be sure to subscribe. You can go to freerangeidiocy.com. That'll take you to our Podbean page. You can download all of the episodes there. Subscribe right through the Podbean app. If you say, you know what, Uncle Todd, I have enough apps in my life, then you just go ahead and find us on one of the apps that you do like. I mean, hey, I'm not your... you're all adults. Go find it. You know how to Google. You know how to use the Googles.
It's out
Free Range Idiocy. You'll find us. We're on Spotify. We are on Apple Podcasts. We are on Pandora. We are not, and that's the app, not the planet.
No.
And we're on Google Podcasts. We're on Samsung Podcasts. We're on a whole bunch of other podcast channels. You can find us there or thereabouts. You can also find us on the social medias. We are on Facebook. We are on the YouTubes. We are on Instagrams. All those are at Free Range Idiocy. If you have any thoughts, questions, or concerns, don't tell me, because I don't give one crap. I'm trying to catch up on all my shows. I haven't got time to talk to people and all that. Yeah, and Tim has now turned off the light in the Blair Witch Suite. He's just sitting in the dark. Just the screen shining off of him. Just...
Yeah, basically.
You can send those to Tim at freerangeidiocy.com. Any questions, thoughts, or concerns, show ideas, or, even if you just want to give us a shout out and be like, you know what? You guys are, decent. You just send all those to Tim at freerangeidiocy. Yeah. How about a spelling bee? Anyways, I don't know why that shot up, but and now I need to stop talking, because quite honestly, I'm starting to go sideways here. I'm going to hand it over to Tim, but not before I ask the second most important question ever uttered by human lips. The first, of course, being what is hip. The second being, what the hell did we learn this episode? Anything?
We've learned the following, my friend. We have learned.
I'm your Huckleberry.
Absolutely. We have learned that Uncle Todd, the man they call Tim, with a combined sleeping time of less than 7 hours, can still somehow pull off an episode.
No! God, please, no! No! No!
Even if only by the seat of their pants.
You are worse than Hulk Hogan.
Thank you very much, Shiki. We have learned CM Punk is ratings gold for AEW, and we are excited to see what the great Phil Brooks is going to bring to Saturday evening wrestling audiences through his work and the work of that great group of talent around him. So excited to see what's going to happen. It will make you humble. We've also learned that Ace Steel is probably a name one should not be using in industries other than maybe certain ones that would star on Cinemax. But
Do it.
we'll just leave it at that.
Do it. Do it.
We've also learned.
Do it. Do it.
Uncle Todd is just losing his mind, and he's just mashing buttons at this point. It's like playing a video game.
I'm writing the pilot for Ed Fett, space accountant coming
Ed
up here.
Fett, space accountant. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, yes. Yes.
I'm telling you, it would work.
We've also learned that Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns, WrestleMania 40, looking to be a very interesting main event, and just looking forward to seeing how that story plays out, as we have witnessed some very good storytelling the last couple months. We'll see if they have it in them. Yes, Shiki, thank you. We've also learned, and I'll just sum it up with this, that the DCEU is DOA, quite frankly.
Shut up, Wesley.
Yeah, thank you. With all that being said, as Uncle Todd has expressed, and I will concur with, we thank you for your listenership. Thank you for the downloads. And as we like to close things up here at the ranch, it is last call time, folks. So as the old saying goes, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Hey, you got it right this time.
Because I practiced.
The man they call Tim never worked security at a bar. You don't have to go home, but you can't go.
Oh, good Lord.
All right, someone shut him off.
Yeah, basically. Be safe, be healthy, be kind, be good to one another. And, well, for old time's sake, and just because I need to go to bed, would you please hit the lights on the way out?
You are worse than Hulk Hogan.
It's like I picked the wrong week to quit drinking.
I beg your pardon, what did you say?
You're such a disappointing pair. I prayed so hard for you. Get out. And don't come back until you've redeemed yourselves.
So say we all.
Amen.
Oh, that was a train wreck.
That was fun.
Now get the hell out of here!